In my past life, after divorcing Luis, I left all 3 of our children with him. Who would have guessed? Luis died, and each of the kids met a worse end than the last. The eldest, bullied for years, finally snapped and killed someone. He ended up in prison. The second, obsessed with having fun, racked up mountains of debt and was found dead in a garbage dump. The youngest, my daughter, lost herself after falling for a scumbag. She tried to run him over but crashed instead. Her body was never found. When I heard the news, I passed out from rage and grief, and when I came to, I had gone back in time to the day Luis and I went to get our divorce. Chapter 1. When I opened my eyes, I saw Luis, devastatingly handsome, standing right in front of me. Before I could process anything, my reflexes kicked in. Slap! Luis clutched his face in outrage. What the hell? Wasn't I good enough for you last night? I ignored him and stared at my own hand. It hurt. It wasn't a dream. I looked up at the calendar, January 23rd, 1986. I couldn't believe it. I had really been reborn to this day. On this very date in my last life, Luis and I filed for divorce and went our separate ways. Not long after, I found out I was pregnant again. That baby became the only child I raised. I poured all my love into that child and forgot the 3 I had left behind with Luis. But fate was cruel. Luis died. And one by one, those 3 children met tragic ends. The pain of that memory surged in my chest. I jumped out of bed, got dressed, and kicked Luis hard. Get up! Luis, still rubbing his slapped cheek, pulled the blanket over his head. No way! You said if I pleased you last night, we wouldn't divorce today. You lied. I'm not going. I lost all patience. I grabbed his ear and yanked. We're not divorcing. Not yet. We're going to bring the kids back home. Luis's eyes lit up like a Christmas tree. He jumped out of bed, dressed in seconds, and rode his bike to take me to his mother's place. On the way, he tried to act casual. So, why the sudden change of heart? You realized you couldn't bear to leave me? I rolled my eyes. Don't flatter yourself. It's got nothing to do with you. If I divorced Luis, the kids would have to stay with him. But if I didn't, I could stay by their side and protect them. In my past life, I failed as a mother. I didn't take responsibility, and I regretted it bitterly. In this life, no matter what, I won't make the same mistake. When we arrived at my mother-in-law's house, my heart was pounding as I knocked on the door. The one who opened it was my eldest son, Ethan, just 11 years old. He froze when he saw me. I gave him the warmest smile I could muster. Ethan, it's Mom. You kids have been staying at Grandma's for a week now. How about coming home with me? But Ethan didn't look happy. His voice was polite, but distant. Thank you, Mother. We're doing just fine here. No need to trouble yourself. The words hit me like a bucket of ice water. I shivered. That's when it hit me. At this point in my last life, my relationship with the kids wasn't good at all. Chapter 2. It was all Luis's fault. Luis and I met through an arranged introduction. Before me, he had always carried a torch for his so-called first love, Alice, the one who dreamed of studying abroad. But for one reason or another, things didn't work out between them, so I became his wife, the one who bore his children. After giving birth to our eldest, Ethan, I fell into postpartum depression. Of course, back in the 1980s, no one called it that, but I was in constant pain, barely able to move in bed, just hoping Luis would stay by my side. Instead, right after Ethan was born, Luis left the country to be with Alice. He was gone for an entire year. By the time he returned, I was already suffering from severe depression, mentally unstable, dazed all day. There were even times when I had violent thoughts toward Ethan. So naturally, Ethan feared me and hated me. When Luis finally realized how bad things had gotten, guilt set in and he began to take care of me. That's when we had our second child, Ryan. Since I hadn't recovered, Luis sent Ryan to live with his mother. Ryan grew up distant from me. He called me a crazy woman, pulled cruel pranks, even cut all my clothes into rags. I finally snapped and fought with Luis. I told him I wanted a divorce. He panicked. For the first time, he realized he couldn't live without me. He got on his knees, begged for forgiveness, promised he'd treat me right for the rest of our lives. We stayed together, and after a few calmer years, I gave birth to our daughter, Fiona. Fiona was sensitive by nature because everyone always said I was mentally unstable. She too began to dislike me. She'd burst into tears whenever she saw me. Sometimes, she even lied, telling Luis I hit her. Not long ago, Fiona came home and asked Luis if her new teacher, Alice, could be her mom instead. That's when I realized Alice had returned to the country. Everything I had buried in my heart came roaring back. I told Luis I wanted a divorce. He refused and insisted on clinging to me, which led to that mess last night. As I stared at Luis now, I thought bitterly, he's the root of everything that went wrong between me and the kids. I shot him a vicious glare. He didn't even notice, just kept stirring the pot. Scolding Ethan, pack up, take your brother and sister home. Your mom finally came to get you, don't act ungrateful. My heart sank. Sure enough, Ethan's eyes dimmed. He gave me one look, then silently went to pack. Great, now he's even more upset. I quickly tried to fix it. Wait, Ethan, don't pack. Mommy's planning to stay here with you all. Everyone, from Luis to my mother-in-law, to the 3 kids inside and out, was completely stunned. But I didn't care what they thought. In this life, no matter what, I will never abandon my children again. Chapter 3. That was what I told myself. But I had clearly underestimated just how much resentment the kids held toward me. On the first day living at my mother-in-law's place, I got up early and made breakfast for Ethan, carefully wrapping it and placing it in his little pouch. I followed him to school in secret, only to see him pull out the lunch I had made and toss it to the ground with disgust. Watching all that lovingly prepared food scatter across the dirt made my eyes sting. After he walked away, I rushed forward and picked up the lunchbox. Ethan's coldness was like a wall. I knew it wouldn't melt easily. On the way home, I bought peanut brittle for Ryan, his favorite. His face lit up with joy. He even ran to my mother-in-law, bragging loudly, "Grandma, Mom bought me peanut candy." My mother-in-law glanced at me, her voice full of sarcasm. Well, look at that! The sun must be rising in the west. She actually remembers she gave birth to him. After throwing that jab, she left to do something else. While Ryan continued to act sweet toward me, I felt a little hopeful and stayed with him to play some games. At first, everything seemed fine, but the moment my mother-in-law stepped out to buy groceries, Ryan's eyes gleamed, and he threw himself down the stairs. I didn't even have time to react. All I heard was a sickening crack, followed by Ryan's shriek as he burst into tears. Inside the house, Fiona came running out, wailing, "Brother!" I rushed to help, but she shoved me hard and shouted, "Go away, you bad woman, you pushed him." The neighbors, who all lived close by, heard the shouting and started gathering. And of course, they'd caught just that last line. Even a tiger doesn't eat its cubs. People always said that woman was insane. Looks like it's true. A child that small? If his leg's broken, his whole life is ruined. Hearing those voices, seeing Ryan and Fiona's performances, I understood immediately. These kids were willing to do anything to get me to divorce Luis. Right then, my mother-in-law came back. The moment she saw what was going on, she dropped her groceries and started yelling, "I told Luis to divorce you a long time ago. He wouldn't listen. What if something happens to the child?" My face went cold. I pulled Fiona away from Ryan and barked, "Stop crying, all of you." The place fell silent, except Ryan, who kept sobbing loudly. I crouched down and pressed on his leg. Good, not broken. The little brat knew exactly how far he could go. I narrowed my eyes and said seriously, "Well, that's it. No hope. You're a cripple for life." Ryan's fake crying came to an abrupt halt. He stared at me in shock for a full 5 seconds, then burst into real tears. Chapter 4. Everyone was pointing fingers at me, but I stayed calm and collected. I had no intention of taking anyone to the hospital. My mother-in-law ignored me, picked Ryan up, and headed for the door. Just as she reached it, Luis came in with Ethan. "What happened?" My mother-in-law was too furious to answer, so the neighbors jumped in to explain, each louder than the last. Luis and Ethan turned to look at me with completely different eyes. Ryan was still sniffling, "Daddy, it's Mom's fault. I'm gonna be crippled forever." Wah. Luis frowned. It's okay. I'll take you to the hospital. You're not gonna be crippled. I let out a cold laugh. Oh, I wouldn't be so sure. Ryan's leg is definitely broken. Ryan immediately started wailing again. Bad mommy. I took advantage of his dazed brain to keep pushing. If you don't jump now, your leg might just disappear altogether. With a shriek, Ryan suddenly leapt out of Grandma's arms before anyone could react. Right in front of everyone, he landed on both feet just fine. The tears stopped. A snot bubble popped on his nose. My leg's okay. I smiled. Of course it is. You only jumped down some stairs. What could possibly go wrong? Ryan grinned proudly. See? I told you. I jumped by myself. Why would I break my leg? The crowd fell silent. Fiona scowled and smacked Ryan. Stupid! You blew it! Only then did Ryan realize what he'd done. He shrank behind Grandma, trying to disappear. Luis's face darkened. So you faked a broken leg and blamed your mom? Ryan, what the hell were you thinking? And honestly, it wasn't just Ryan at this point. I suspected all three of these kids had something rattling around in their heads. No way the eldest and the youngest weren't in on it. One look at Ethan's disappointed in you face. And I knew he had more schemes up his sleeve. I had underestimated how deep the rift ran between me and the kids. It wouldn't heal overnight. Once the neighbors realized it was all just a prank, they immediately switched sides and started scolding my mother-in-law instead. With kids like this, even a healthy mom would end up in the loony bin. My mother-in-law, now red-faced, muttered apologies to Luis one by one. When we got back inside, I had already finished making dinner. The whole family sat down in awkward silence. When it was Ryan's turn to eat, I cleared my throat. People who bully me don't get to eat. Ryan froze, then shouted back, why not? I smiled sweetly. Because I'm a bad mommy. Remember? Ryan glared at me. I'm eating anyway. This is Grandma's house. I'll eat however I want. Even my mother-in-law frowned. They're still growing kids. No matter what they did, you can't just stop feeding them. I stood my ground. Not just Ryan, Fiona doesn't get to eat either. You both called me a bad woman and joked about being disabled. If you don't learn a lesson now, what kind of disaster will you cause next? Ryan and Fiona shrieked in protest, making everyone's head hurt. Luis took a deep breath. Enough! Quiet! The two kids instantly fell silent, looking at Luis with teary eyes, but with divorce hanging over his head like a sword. Luis, even if he pitied the kids, had no choice but to side with me. He forced himself to sound stern. Listen to your mom. This is your own fault. That prank of yours was way out of line. Skipping one meal won't kill you. My mother-in-law was clearly upset. Luis! Mom, stop spoiling them. Luis raised his voice. You can see what they're turning into, can't you? This is serious. In the end, Ryan and Fiona stood facing the wall in tears while Ethan sat quietly at the table, eating his meal. I picked up a piece of chicken and placed it in his bowl. Eat more. Ethan, I know you like this. I made it especially for you. Ethan's eyes flickered, and his voice softened. Thank you, Mother. Chapter 5. After the meal, my mother-in-law, looking drained, told us to take the kids and leave. I held Ethan's hand and looked at Luis and the other two kids. So it's settled. I'll take Ethan to live elsewhere for a while. You three can manage on your own. The three children all froze and asked at once, why? I smiled lightly. Flashback to this morning, when I returned home with the lunchbox Ethan had thrown away. I ran into Luis. After I told him what Ethan had done, his brow furrowed deeply. That boy's getting harder to figure out. His teacher says sometimes he won't say a single word for an entire month. My heart skipped a beat. I knew what that meant, early signs of depression. A mother's depression inevitably leaves traces in her child's heart. Ethan was our first child. We named him Ethan because it meant a gift from heaven. But thinking of how his life turned out in my previous life, I couldn't sit still anymore. So I made up my mind. I would take Ethan and live separately for a while. Only the two of us could fix the rift between mother and son. Luis didn't agree at first, but under the threat of divorce, he had no choice but to give in with a frown. Naturally, I couldn't tell the truth in front of the kids. I just told them that Ethan was about to enter middle school and needed a quiet environment to study. Ryan rolled his eyes. So that means you're coming back? Ugh. Dad, can't you seriously get us a new mom already? Luis's face darkened, and he smacked Ryan lightly on the head. No, watch your mouth. Then he turned to me and Ethan. If anything happens, go to the phone booth and call me. And just like that, Ethan and I began our life, just the two of us. Ethan had always been a thoughtful child, never made a fuss, took care of himself well, and that just made me feel worse. Most 11-year-olds are still clinging to their parents, asking for hugs and snacks. But Ethan? Never. I took a deep breath and made him a promise. 1. Call for mom when something happens. 2. You can cry or get angry in front of mom. 3. Always believe in mom. Ethan nodded on the surface, but he was cautious, like he was afraid of making me mad. Even when he was bullied, he never told me. Chapter 6. After just 3 days of living together, I noticed something was off. Every time Ethan came home, the edges of his clothes were dirty. He looked upset. And after dinner, he would shut himself in his room. I cracked the door open quietly and saw he had hung a punching bag. Every evening, after dinner, bang bang bang, he punched with frightening focus. At 11 years old, his face was already full of rage. I tried to ask casually at dinner, "What's going on, sweetheart?" Ethan shook his head. "Nothing. You don't need to worry, Mother." Still keeping that wall between us, I bit back my unease and followed him to school in secret. Sure enough, halfway there, a group of kids surrounded him. "Bastard, you've got a mom, but she's a nut job, just like you." Ethan clenched his fists tight. His face was twisted with barely contained fury. My heart dropped, and just as one of the boys raised a rock to hit Ethan, I lunged forward and pulled him into my arms. Thud! The rock hit me instead. The pain shot through my back. Little punks! I ignored the pain and shielded Ethan behind me. He was stunned, speechless. I turned to the brats and shouted, "What are you doing? Who raised you? Where are your parents?" But they just laughed and jumped around. "Crazy lady! Freak!" I sneered and waved my hand. "You all heard that, right? These kids just insulted a classmate. Clearly, their families have a problem with discipline." From the end of the alley, a group of police officers walked out. The kids' faces turned pale. They tried to run, but more police blocked the other side of the alley. After a round of questioning, the little punks were taken to the station, and later handed over to their parents. I rubbed my aching back and gently patted Ethan's head. "Did I scare you?" Ethan stared at me, eyes slowly turning red. He asked, "Why did you shield me?" I paused, then calmly said, "Because you're my son. Of course I'll protect you." I reached out to touch the cut on the corner of his mouth, but he flinched away. His emotions were starting to unravel. He hadn't spoken much lately, and his voice was hoarse. "You hate me. You always have, ever since I was little." I didn't try to argue, I just apologized. "That was my fault. I'm sorry. You don't have to forgive me, but I'll do everything I can to make up for it. Is that okay?" Tears streamed down his face. "I threw away the lunch you made for me. I'm not a good kid. I hated you too." I shook my head. "It's okay. I'll just make you better lunches from now on, all right?" This time, Ethan didn't pull away. He let me hug him and whispered, "Just this once." My nose stung. "Thank you, Ethan. Thank you for still giving me a chance to make things right." Life with Ethan slowly settled into a peaceful rhythm. Every day, I tried to make him smile. We cooked together, and I told him bedtime stories. Bit by bit, his smile returned. He started to look like a normal kid, shy, playful, even clingy sometimes. When I caught a cold and sneezed, he went to ask the neighbors for help and cooked porridge for me. Even Luis never did that for me. I was moved, and even more filled with regret for not seeing the truth sooner in my last life. But this time, I had the chance to do it all right. Chapter 7. After a month of peace, Ryan and Fiona showed up holding hands. "Hey, are you ever coming home? Dad's about to be stolen by another woman and her kid." Ryan was filthy from head to toe, like a little stray cat. Fiona's hair was a tangled mess, her pigtails loose and sticky from who knows what. Looked like no one had brushed it in days. I clenched my jaw, resisted the urge to explode, and cleaned them up one by one. Then I made them a hot meal before calmly asking what happened. Turns out, Alice had moved in with her child. After 2 lifetimes, hearing her name again didn't stir a thing in me. This life, I only care about my children. Ryan and Fiona were furious, yelling over each other, begging me to come back and kick Alice out. I snorted. Weren't you two the ones dying to have her as your new mom? Especially you, Fiona. Fiona blushed, pouting. I thought she was better than you. She was really nice to me and Ryan at school, but then we found out she has her own kid. So that was it. She just wanted a free upgrade in the mom department. But once she realized Alice had a child of her own, she lost all interest. It didn't help that Ryan and Fiona had been locked in a non-stop war with Alice's child and kept losing. Fiona laid her little head on my lap and blinked up at me with watery eyes. Mama, please come back and win Daddy back. I want Daddy. Alice had gotten divorced, homeless, and that idiot Luis took her in, and he thought I'd send the kids back to him? Keep dreaming. This was the perfect opportunity to turn the kids against him. Don't be silly, I said smoothly. Your dad's just helping her out a little. She'll leave soon. Fiona tried to argue again, but I quickly covered her mouth. For now, you two will stay here with Mom and your big brother. Ryan's whole body tensed in protest. Huh? I don't wanna. Living with Mom means good food and fun stuff. Does your dad cook for you at home? I cut him off with a bright smile. Sure enough. He looked conflicted. Luis could cook. Yes, but his food was honestly terrible. In the end, both Ryan and Fiona puffed up their cheeks and stayed. I noticed Ethan didn't seem too happy. So while the two little troublemakers were busy exploring their new environment, I pulled him aside. Ethan, do you not want them to stay? He forced a smile. No, not at all. I'm happy my little brother and sister are here. But he didn't look happy. At home, even Luis and Grandma always told him to be the sensible one, to let the younger ones have their way. He was probably worried I'd start doing the same, focusing on Ryan and Fiona, and slowly forgetting about him. I thought for a second, then gently hugged him. Even though your siblings are here now, you'll always be Mommy's most beloved little angel. Actually, I'm a little scared too. Ethan blinked in surprise. I smiled at him. You know how much those two hate me. I don't think I can handle them alone. Ethan, will you help Mom out? I even gave him a little wink, something I'd just learned from Fiona. Ethan's face immediately lit up. He straightened with all the seriousness of a little soldier. Don't worry, Mom. I'll keep them in line. I gave him a grateful smile. Someone once said, in families with multiple kids, you don't need to treat everyone exactly the same. You just need to pour your love into the oldest, and they'll naturally learn to care for the younger ones. And honestly, my decision was absolutely right. Chapter 8. Fiona was a girl full of mischief, but still knew how to act ladylike, at least a little. In the past few days, other than begging me to tie her hair into all kinds of pretty styles, she had behaved relatively well. Ryan, on the other hand, day 1, he blew up my hot water thermos. The whole building thought a bomb had gone off. Day 2, he got into a fight with another kid. Their parents came storming over to yell at me. Day 3, Ryan took his final exams at school, came home with 2 big fat zeros. And to top it off, I stood there, holding a feather duster, trying to stay calm as I questioned him. Ryan, who did you give our food coupons to? Since leaving Luis, I'd worked so hard to save up those coupons, planning to buy something nice for Ethan's birthday. But when I checked my bag, they were all gone. I felt like my head was going to explode. No need to guess, I already knew it was Ryan. He didn't even deny it, but refused to say who he gave them to. My chest ached with fury. Ethan helped me sit down quickly. Don't be angry, Mom. I'll help you save more later. I rubbed my temples and patted his hand. This is something adults should worry about. Ryan, completely unapologetic, said, exactly. You left them out. So it's your fault. Why didn't you hide them better? My blood boiled. You. I barely got the word out before dizziness overtook me. I collapsed. M.O.M. Suddenly, all 3 kids panicked. They rushed to catch me. Mom, what's wrong? Mom, don't die. Their voices overlapped in chaos, making my headache even worse. Fiona burst into tears and started hitting Ryan. Stupid brother. It's your fault. You killed Mom. Ryan froze, stunned, and snapped back. I didn't kill her. It's not my fault. She's just stingy. I only took a few coupons. My chest hurt so badly, I nearly coughed up blood. Ethan's face turned grim. Both of you. Shut up. The younger two instantly went silent. Then all three helped me back up. I clutched my stomach, carefully sat down on the couch, and drank the warm water Ethan handed me. Finally, I caught my breath. Ethan looked at me with deep concern. Mom, what's wrong? I sighed and gently placed my hand on my lower abdomen. Mom's pregnant. You're going to have a baby sister. The three children stared at me, eyes wide with shock. Chapter 9. Ethan quickly pulled himself together and got ready to head out. I'll go to Grandma's and get some fresh eggs. Before leaving, he gave the two little ones a stern warning. Don't upset Mom again. Take good care of her. Ryan and Fiona, for once, sat obediently like little quails, quietly squatting in front of me. Fiona's eyes sparkled. Is it really a baby sister? I nodded. In my previous life, after divorcing Luis, I raised my youngest daughter all on my own. Ryan stared blankly at my belly, eyes growing red. When I was pregnant with Fiona, Ryan had still been very young and living with his grandma. He never got to feel like a big brother. But after meeting Fiona, he'd always played the role. Whenever something happened, he'd shield her without hesitation. Like that time someone messed up my makeup, it was obviously Fiona. She was always sneaking around my makeup table, but Ryan took the blame and got a beating from Luis for it. He may not have been the most obedient son, but he was a good brother. Now he looked at my belly, eyes wet with tears, and asked in a trembling voice, "Will the baby sister hate me?" I raised an eyebrow. I don't know. Tears rolled down his face like beans. I'll listen to you from now on. I won't make you mad again. Can you tell the baby not to hate me? Wow, hell really has frozen over. I said vaguely. Well, you did give away her food coupons. She's probably hungry and very upset. Ryan froze, then clenched his jaw. I'll get them back. I promise. My eyelid twitched. Don't do anything stupid. Who exactly did you give them to? He went quiet for a long time, then finally muttered the truth. I gave them to that fox woman. My face darkened. Alice? Chapter 10. Ryan said that 2 days ago, he had gotten into that fight because of Alice. They ran into her on the way home. Alice told Ryan and Fiona to go back with her. Ryan got angry and called her a witch. Then one of Alice's students rushed over and started a fight. Ryan won, though he ended up with a bruised forehead. He was about to leave when Alice stopped him. You're just going to leave like that? She said sweetly. What if this kid's parents come for revenge? Your mom will have to pay for it. Ryan froze mid-step. Alice kept smiling. Your mom never liked you in the first place. If this happens, she'll hate you even more. Ryan's face turned cold. It's none of your damn business. Alice covered her mouth and giggled. Of course it's not. But since your dad was kind enough to take us in, I can't just sit back and watch your family fall apart. Can I? Then she told Ryan that if he gave her enough food coupons, she'd make sure the whole mess was taken care of. I was tricked. Ryan wiped his tears, choking on his words. I just wanted to get the coupons back before you noticed. I'm sorry. So this brat did understand things. He knew our family wasn't well off, and those coupons weren't easy to come by. I was so furious my chest hurt. I stood up. Come on, we're going to find your father. Damn Alice, and damn Luis too. The kids had been living with me for 3 days and he hadn't shown up once. Some father he was. I stormed home with all 3 kids in tow, only to see Alice hugging Luis tightly. Admittedly, compared to me, Alice looked more refined and delicate. Clinging to a man like that, she gave off a pitiful, soft-hearted image. Luis, she whispered, all these years, I've never stopped thinking about you. I've always regretted it. If I had married you back then, maybe I wouldn't have ended up like this. Luis frowned and tried to push her away. That's all in the past. I love my wife now. Let go. Clap, clap, clap. I applauded. Both of them jumped in shock. Luis immediately shoved Alice off. Elise, let me explain. I cut him off coldly. No need. I'm not here for your soap opera. I'm here for Ryan. Alice's eyes flickered. Ryan and Fiona were so thoughtless. Running away like that. Luis was so worried about them. Ryan's temper flared instantly. But I stopped him with a hand. Let mommy handle it. He hesitated, then awkwardly brushed my hand away. Luis looked confused as I walked past him. What's going on? I pushed him aside and slapped Alice across the face. Luis was stunned. Elise, what are you doing? He rushed to support Alice, who almost fell. I stood there coldly, not lifting a finger to stop it. Alice, don't you have any shame? You even lied to a child. Where are those food coupons? Hand them over or I'm calling the police. Luis frowned. Food coupons? What food coupons? Ethan stepped up and calmly explained everything. Luis's face turned dark. Elise, maybe this is just a misunderstanding. Alice, she's not like that. Ryan exploded, chest rising and falling with rage. Dad, so you're saying I'm lying? You don't believe me? Fiona burst into tears. Even mommy believes us. How could you not believe your own kids? Luis was left speechless. I didn't say a word to defend him. In my past life, because of my mental illness, all the kids chose to stay with Luis instead of me. This time, it was his turn to know what it felt like to be rejected by your own children. Chapter 11. Alice tried to argue again, so I simply called the police. With the officers involved, Alice had no choice but to hand over the food coupons. Luis was completely silenced. He wanted to apologize to the kids, but none of them were ready to forgive him that easily. Children see the world in black and white. This time, Luis had truly broken their hearts. Later, he came to me in private and asked me to talk to them on his behalf. They're my kids. He said, there shouldn't be bad blood between father and children. I gently rubbed my belly and calmly answered. Sure, but I have one condition. Luis raised an eyebrow. I smirked. Let's get a divorce. Luis, we'll just say it's due to irreconcilable differences. Luis's face paled visibly. Elise, we agreed, no divorce. I rolled my eyes. I said temporarily we wouldn't divorce. You misunderstood. Luis stood up, face darkening. I don't agree. Then I'll file for a contested divorce. You not agreeing won't stop it. Even though Alice had moved out, the neighbors had already seen her coming in and out of our house. They'd all serve as witnesses. Luis had no way to fight it. When my mother-in-law found out, she came over trying to talk me out of it. I thought for a moment, then called the 3 kids into the room right in front of Luis and his mother. Your father and I are getting a divorce. What do you 3 think? Ethan already depended on me completely, but Ryan and Fiona, they still weren't fully attached to me. Even if they no longer hated me like before, I was nervous, worried they'd choose Luis again, like in my past life. But to my surprise, Ryan and Fiona just frowned briefly, then nodded calmly. If you're gonna divorce, just do it. You two are always arguing anyway. I'll go with Mom. Dad, you can go chase that nasty woman. Luis's face darkened. Hey, what kind of thing is that to say? Can't you wish your old man some happiness? Fiona chimed in. Second brother's right, Dad. You've always liked that bad woman. She ran over to my side and held my hand. I didn't understand before. I liked her too, 'cause Dad liked her. But now I know, no one is better than Mom. My heart warmed. All the stress and effort these past weeks, totally worth it. Seeing the younger two take my side, Luis's face sank. He turned to Ethan. What about you, son? Do you want your parents to get divorced too? To our surprise, Ethan shook his head. I don't want Mom and Dad to get divorced. His tone was sincere, and my heart sank. Chapter 12. If Ethan truly didn't want this, I could delay the divorce. Nothing was more important than the kids' emotional well-being. Luis beamed. Elise, remember our deal? If even one kid didn't want us to divorce, then we wouldn't. That was our agreement, and I wasn't one to go back on my word. I was about to nod when Ethan suddenly continued. But Mom is pregnant, Dad. Luis and Grandma froze, then their faces lit up with joy. That's wonderful news. Why didn't you say anything sooner? I'm going to have another grandchild. I have to tell everyone. I smiled faintly but didn't say much. Ethan didn't let their happiness last long. I didn't want you two to divorce, but now that Mom's pregnant, I think divorce might be best for both of you. Luis froze. Ethan looked him dead in the eye. Dad, to be honest, you're a decent father, but you're not a good husband. Luis's eyes darkened. Grandma quickly scolded. Ethan, watch your mouth. That's your father you're talking to. But Ethan ignored her completely, something he almost never did, and continued. Dad, do you even remember how you treated Mom when she was pregnant with Ryan and Fiona? Luis looked away. Ethan lowered his eyes and pulled the corner of his lips into a bitter smile. Every time Mom got pregnant, you were never there for her. You always had some reason not to come home. When I was little, I hated Mom. I didn't understand why she had me if she didn't like me. But these past few days, after learning what pregnant women go through, I finally realized moms are fragile when they're expecting. And Mom proved to me that she didn't hate me. She was just sick. Sick because you drove her to it. Dad, maybe you love Mom, but your love is so little it might as well not exist. So, even if I don't want to, for the sake of Mom and my baby sister. He looked up, voice steady. I want to say, let Mom go. The room fell into silence. Ethan, my eldest son, stood firm in front of me, facing off against his tall, broad-shouldered father like a grown man. And in that moment, I felt strangely grateful. Grateful that Luis wasn't a completely unreasonable man. It was as if Luis was seeing his son for the first time. He stared at Ethan for a long time, truly taking him in. Finally, he nodded softly. All right. Chapter 13. Even though my mother-in-law strongly objected, Luis and I still went through with the divorce. Unlike my past life, this time all the children stayed with me. They looked after me diligently every day, never needing to be told twice. Luis didn't get entangled with Alice again. Instead, he stayed alone in our old home, occasionally sending over food coupons. He rarely contacted me directly. But whenever he had to travel for work, he'd write me letters. In the letters, he'd apologize subtly or not so subtly, recalling the past, saying he regretted how he treated me. And then, almost as if in passing, he'd slip in a question. Elise, do we still have a chance? In the adult world, nothing is ever left completely burned. I never gave him a hard no, just vague words, like, we're still friends, aren't we? But deep down, we both knew, we weren't even friends. Soon, I gave birth to the baby in my belly. This time, I named her on my own. I gave her the same name she had in my past life, Miranda. She would carry my surname. I hoped that in this life, Miranda would grow up under the love of her siblings and live a bright, happy life. When she was nearly a month old, I remembered something. It was around this time, in my past life, that Luis had died. I couldn't sleep that night, so I had someone send him a message. I was craving his braised pork belly. In the previous life, Luis had died in a car crash that very night. So this time, I made sure to tell him, don't drive. When I saw him at the hospital, carrying the pork in his hands, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. His fate had changed too. Luis had no idea. He just smiled as he waited for me to finish eating. Then, full of hope, he asked me, Elise, will you marry me again? I looked at his still handsome face and replied with only one sentence. Drive safe. I saw the disappointment wash over his face. Clear as day. He really was a good man. A softer woman might have forgiven him, but I could never forget the mental wounds he caused me. Watching him walk away, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief. This is a good era. I can do anything I want. As for love, it's overrated.